is here to tell us all about this item.
Yes, thank you. So we've been using Rec Track, this program, for many, many years. And over the years, the functionality is not as good. It's complicated for our customers and the staff to use. It should be noticed it's server-based and not web-based. And so their staff is not even supporting it anymore, which makes it very difficult for us. And also, it operates off of Internet Explorer, if you haven't heard, is going away as of June 15th. So we're in a time crunch to get a replacement, which the staff has chosen Rec Desk. It's got many more functions and capabilities. It's going to be web-based. One of the big things was so people could register for athletic programs on their phones when they're at the parks. It can do that. It can have mass notifications, background music. You can pay with credit cards, so it's got so much more functionality. We do have the budget available right now to get us through the end of the year, and then it's on target with what we currently pay for Rec Track as well.
All right, any question for Ms. Cobal? All right, move to the next item, which is item number 5, resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into community service agreement with the Miss Hoover Foundation. Ms. Callaway? Whatever you're comfortable with. Come on down here where we can see you very clearly.
Good afternoon. So the community service agreement for Miss Hoover Foundation, as most of you are aware, we have the Miss Hoover competition. It is not a beauty pageant, it is a scholarship competition. And we have Miss Hoover and Miss Hoover's outstanding teen. It's an open preliminary where they compete and they serve the city of Hoover for a year. And then they can go on and compete for the Miss Alabama pageant or Miss Alabama's outstanding teen. So we would like to have a community service agreement to give the Miss Hoover Foundation funds for running this pageant for the city.
Very good. And this is an item that the members will recall we budgeted in the last budget cycle, and this is just a CSA to firm that up.
Correct.
Any questions for Ms. Callaway? Excellent job. Thank you, ma'am. The next item is item number 6, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a maintenance agreement with the state of Alabama and through the Alabama Department of Transportation. Mr. Reeves.
Yes, sir. This is just a standard maintenance agreement with AlDOT. This is related to the upgrades to the traffic signal at Highway 31 at Hoover Commons. This upgrade will be very similar to what we did at Diodera last year, and this project is budgeted.
Any questions for Mr. Reeves? This will fix my issue with the cycle.
Yes, sir, hopefully.
You mean yes?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Item number 7 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Amy Appleton. Mr. Rice.
Yes, Ms. Appleton just retired as a manager in our emergency communications department, and she had a number of administrative projects underway that Linda has as part of her strategic plan for that department. Amy is relocating out of state. We have an existing funded part-time position in that department, and we were just going to slide Amy after her 30 days of that RSA requires you to be off the books. We were going to slide her back in as a retiree in that part-time role. We've run into a number of issues with a remote worker who's an employee living in another state, and I think Mr. Light and I discussed this the other day. That's a puzzle that a lot of employers are having to figure out with a remote economy, but there's a lot of convoluted taxation considerations, and if that's an OSHA state and we're not, it's just very complicated. So we figured the easiest thing to do is to do a services contract. So you'll see some proposed compensation limits there. Those are based on what she can do in her first year after retirement and in subsequent years. We basically just want to keep her on the team working It's all stuff she can do remote, and she'll be working on administrative policies and procedures, complying with subpoenas, that they get a tremendous number of subpoenas for public records and things like that, to take a little burden off of the rest of the management team.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Rice?
Thank you.
Next item, number 8, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with Avenue. And I believe 8 and 9 are closely related, Ms. Bolt, so can we talk about those together? Both are,
Yes, they're
Resolution.
basically with the same type of data. So this is, Avenue will do some business license discovery and recovery. And then they will also do some auxiliary audit services for sales and use taxes. So we have one revenue auditor on staff at this point. And so we just don't have the resources to go out and do all the auditing that we should be doing. And so we decided we would try, for now, a one-year contract with this company to try to do some of those auditing procedures. And they have a larger database than what we would have to go out and find some of the discovery and recovery things. But also we thought, instead of trying to just fill another position that's going to be permanent, let's try to outsource it for a year, see how it goes, and see what they can recover and discover. And as you see that they, through the contract, they will get 50% of what they collect when they discover or recover something, and 50% of any revenue that they receive from that. So it's revenue that they have to earn themselves. They get a portion of it. It's not revenue that we are collecting and then we pay them a fee, that we're already getting and paying them a fee. So they basically have to earn their revenue themselves, or earn their fee payment on both contracts.
any questions on that item?
I've got one.
Yes, sir.
At the end of that, I'm sure you get a list of everything that they found. So if you were to decide you wanted to pursue the full-time position, you would have that data in there to add to your database as well.
Exactly. Yes, because they're, we've kind of talked about how we want to report, and so we're right now talking about monthly. We'll see how that goes. If not, we may want to do, bi-monthly reporting. So just kind of trying to work out the kinks of when we're going to do the reporting.
All right, cool.
Any other questions? Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bolt. Item number 10 is a resolution to amend a section of the Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual. Mr. Rice.
Yes, sir, thank you. This would essentially eliminate the position of chief of police. Oh, sorry, I just want to make sure he was awake, I'm sorry. We had a long, arduous meeting this afternoon, and I want to be sure he was with. So right now, when an employee approaches retirement, I know I'll pay for that at some future point. When an employee approaches retirement, there's a rule on the books now that an employee can burn 320 hours of vacation time in a calendar year. So we have a lot of longtime employees who have a significantly high balance of vacation time. So what they wind up having to do is burn 320 hours down to a December, and then burn another 320 hours in the next calendar year. So they wind up taking off 16 weeks back to back, spanning over the change of the new year. That's just the way the system is set up right now. And then they can sell their remaining leave up to 50% of their remaining leave, up to 500 hours, okay? This just shifts the payout so that this would limit the leave to 320 hours in a rolling 12-month period instead of a calendar year. So you could no longer burn 16 consecutive weeks of leave. However, the second 320 hours that they would have had to burn over time for their paycheck will be added to their payout. So it would increase their payout from 500 to 820. The net impact on the employee is they get that second installment of funds faster because they get it on their final paycheck. Instead of having to hang around for 4 months, they can burn their 2 months at any time during the year. They don't have to wait until the end of a calendar year. When they get ready to go, they can burn their 8 weeks, then they can leave, and their payout is enhanced by the other 320 hours. The benefit to the city is we can fill that spot faster. So with about 65% of the city being public safety positions, for example. Those are minimum staff positions. So when somebody is burning 8 weeks of time in preparation for retirement, other people are having to be paid overtime to fill those spots because we're not in a position to just work short in those public safety endeavors. In the other 35% of the city, if you have a 6 or 7 person work unit and one person is burning 8 weeks to retirement, the workload obviously remains the same. It's now just distributed over fewer people for 8 weeks, and we can't even start to fill the position until it's, excuse me, become available on the books. So win-win-win. The city spends no more money than it already spends. The employee gets that payout in their check, and they don't have to hang around an extra 8 weeks waiting on biweekly paychecks. And the department and the work unit is able to fill the position 8 weeks sooner. And that's it.
And we pay less overtime in backfilling that position. for
We
those 8
actually
weeks.
save money. We pay less overtime and backfill, and we will still have a police chief.
And we pay less benefits because their termination date,
They're off the books 8 weeks sooner.
yes.
We save 2 months on the benefits, that's right. The city saves a little money.
Yeah. Win-win-win. We like those. Any questions for Mr. Rice on that item?
I've got one. We've talked about this a couple of times, but have you looked at, or has Mike looked at a way to take some of that time they would sell and maybe talk to people about donating it to a bank for people that, we've talked about issues where people need time and they don't have it, and maybe a retiree wanted to give a few hours to that bank?
Yes, sir. You solved that issue with your last round of changes that you approved last month or maybe the month before. It allowed with sick leave. Now, this is just dealing with vacation, but with sick leave, now when an employee leaves with a very high sick balance and they can only be paid up to half of that, instead of the other half evaporating, they can elect, as part of their kind of checkout procedure with HR, they can elect to leave that other half in a bank, and it's available to other employees who need it. And there's the same rules still apply. The other employee has to have exhausted all their leave. It has to be an approved purpose, so their department head and the HR director still have to sign off that, this is a catastrophic illness. This is an issue involving a family member. So all that still applies. But yes, sir, you approved, in the last package, there was a provision in there, and we appreciate that because we used it the very next day with the young lady that I think we talked about. So she was able to benefit. She had 0 time. She hadn't collected her first paycheck yet, and got a devastating diagnosis. And so she was able to use time that a retiree put into that bank you're referring to. Yes, sir. And we can't overstate how much we appreciate that.
Very good. Any other questions? Item 11 is amendment to a resolution 658821 that authorized the establishment of the Healthcare Authority for the city.
Yes, sir. I think Ms. Danielson may have some comments. This is housekeeping. You've already acted to create the Healthcare Authority. Now this is finalizing the paperwork now that the 3 members have been seated and organized and adopted bylaws, et cetera, and there's a filing with the Secretary of State that needs to occur. So is there anything
That is
else?
exactly correct.
Okay.
Any questions on that one? Item number 12 is a resolution declaring a public purpose for the clean out and repair of a drainage pipe affecting a public road right-of-way. Mr. Reeves.
Yes, sir, and we have 2 of these to make sure I'm talking about the right one first, so I apologize for that. This request is for a declaration to address issues between the property line at 2640 and 2644 Creekview Drive. The pipe at this location is clogged, causing Creekview Drive to overtop or have impacts to the adjacent roadway to the north. Based on our field observations, it appears that during the storm 2 weeks ago, that a trash container was washed down the drainage ditch and is lodged in that pipe, and it's continued to clog up. And because of that, it has basically destroyed the remainder of that pipe down to Patton Creek. Because it's overtopping the road and causing an impact, we wanted to bring this to you for consideration of a public purpose to repair this area and to replace that pipe down to Patton Creek. The request would be for time and materials not to exceed $75,000. Hopefully it won't be that much, but we needed to set that amount high enough that we could complete the work.
Any questions for Mr. Reeves? Next item, Mr. Reeves, is yours too. Another public purpose.
Yes, sir. This one is located at 4846 Sulphur Springs Road. A pipe located in the rear yard of this residence is also clogged. So we're proposing to go in and unclog this pipe. I don't know if any of y'all traveled that road last week. You can see some of the impacts to Sulphur Springs Road. The stormwater is getting out of that, supposedly where the pipe should be carrying it, running through the backyard and running out into the road. It's impacting the road. And of course, some of you said you saw the debris in the road that we had to clean up last week. So I think hopefully we can address and clean this pipe out for under $20,000. Again, this is a time and materials estimate. And we will be able to keep that water in that pipe.
Any questions on that one? All right. Thank you, Mr. Reeves. I think that's all for you. Appreciate that. Item number 14, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Charter Communications. Mr. Cope.
Council. This is a standard agreement we do every year for the SEC tournament, some additional services that we light up to make sure we can handle the broadcast and some of the television services that are needed. This year will be slightly different in that we'll carry it over into the World Games as well too, and then we'll shut it down after the World Games are complete.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Cope?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Item number 15, resolution authorizing Birmingham Water Works to install a fire hydrant. Chief?
Yes, Mr. President, this is just a standard agreement between the city and Birmingham Water Works to install 10 fire hydrants.
10, okay. It says A. That's a lot.
Yes, sir.
Any questions on these fire hydrants? Very good. Thank you. 16, ordinance to providing for the levying of municipal taxes for general and municipal purposes for the city. This appears to be the annual ordinance we pass each year. Is that correct, Ms. Dickerson?
That's correct.
Any questions on this item? Anyone against collecting taxes? Your salary depends on it, sir. And the next item, 17, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Charter. Mr. Cope? Is that different than 14?
I believe this is the franchise agreement.
It is, yes, sir.
So yeah, in the past, we've had a 5-year reoccurring franchise agreement with Charter. It expired in December of 2020. We've been working through a new one, working with the legal team. We feel like we've met all the new FCC guidelines, and we're happy with where it lays in line with the other franchise agreements that we have, and we're ready to move forward with it.
Very good. Any questions on that item?
Did you mention this is 10 years on this one?
I don't recall if it's 5 or 10 or not. If it's not 10, it's 5 with the option to renew after that.
Do we know, April?
You can scroll down there, Ms. Dickerson, we might can see.
That's the whole agreement. It's about 10 or 12 pages long.
Yeah, I saw 5 in there, I think.
I can get you that answer.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's fine. It's not a big deal. I was just wondering what the term was.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The next 3 items will be first readings only, beginning with number 18. A first reading for an ordinance to rescind ordinance number 22-2555. This is something we already approved, right, Ms. Dickerson? But
It
we're
was.
rescinding?
Yes, that's correct. It was the zoning amendment for last time. There was some error in that one, so we're just rescinding it. And then what y'all had heard and Mac had talked about is actually the 2562, the next one down. So let me show you that one.
Okay, so the first item, we'll rescind the ordinance. The second item will be first reading for the new ordinance, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And what was the error?
It was the posting of it.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Dickerson? All right, the final items, item number 20, we'll have a public hearing on the 18th, but have a first reading on Monday for a conditional use approval for a mixed-use retail office space for property located at 2154 Clearbrook Road and 775 Shades Mountain Plaza. Mr. Aldaca.
Yes. I don't know if I can, but I'm gonna try.
Talk slow.
This is gonna be a new building to be constructed on that site. It is at the north end of Shades Mountain and Plaza and Clearbrook. It's gonna be 3 units, 1 office, approximately 3,000 square feet, and 2 retail/commercial units, approximately about 1,200 square feet.
What is this?
Where they took down that nursery.
Oh, Hoover Fitness, yeah.
Yeah, where they took that nursery down.
Okay,
They took down the nursery that was there.
okay.
We are recommending approval with the following conditions. The site and the building are constructed in substantial conformity to the plans presented. And the application for the signs are to be submitted separately. And of course, this plan is in support of our comprehensive plan when it comes to commercial and development for this vicinity.
Any questions for Mr. Aldaca? Very good, sir. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Any questions or comments from the members? Very good. We're adjourned.